Hey guys, today I want to make a video on basically tong making, and there's a bunch of mistakes that happen very commonly that I want to kind of tell you about that I used to make, by the way. But I learned how to avoid them, and I want to show you that because it's not very often talked about. And the mistake is basically just having the wrong idea of how the shape is supposed to be. What'll happen is, actually, first of all, I should get something out of the way, which is the way most people will explain tong making. Basically 3 steps. Imagine this is the anvil, top view. And what you'll do, or what people will explain, which by the way, this is right, but I'll explain to you what gets missed. What you do is you put the bar into the anvil on a near edge, let's say 1 inch. You make that first set down. You rotate it like this. And then you go to the far edge and you put it at a 45-degree angle. You line up that first set down shoulder with the far edge, you set that down, and then you rotate that again the same way, 90 degrees, in the same direction, and you make that final set down, which makes this shape here. That's all well and good, but the problem that happens, there's actually 2 main things that I can think of. First of all, people will neglect the fact that the best structure is to have the thickest, the strongest point next to the pivot. Ideally, you want this to taper away from the boss like this. See what I've drawn here? It's thicker here than it is over here, and thicker here than it is here. So what will accidentally happen is you'll end up seeing tongs with a thin spot right here and right here. That's no good. It's going to be weak. Those aren't going to last a very long time. So yeah, that's the basic thing, is people just don't know that, I guess. And the other thing that happens is people will tell you to, when you make this set down, line up the set down of the first set down shoulder with the far edge. It's actually better if you pull the material back towards you a little bit to get that away from. You can see I've drawn that the shoulder is actually behind the edge. See, what this prevents is it prevents the front of the boss here on the other tong from interfering with if you imagine the underside of that second set down. They just won't fit properly if you don't keep this in mind. Those are the basic mistakes. The top picture, which I drew here, this is actually kind of unrelated. This has to do with tapering, which is the first thing I'm going to do when I cut to actually the making of this project. It's tapering the reins out. This is a method that was popularized, I would say, by Alex Steele mostly, but he got it from Brian Brazil, I believe. And what it is basically it's a repeating set down. It's probably one of the simplest ways I could explain it. You just make a set down kind of arbitrarily on the bar, really. It's not really any specific measurement. And what you do is you rotate that 90 degrees. I like to do it towards me because it's just more comfortable to spin my left hand that way. And then you pull the material towards you very slightly at the same time. Then you make a second set down in that spot. And on the third blow, the side you initially set down, that shoulder you created, is now available to the top surface, which you can then set down again. And this repeats over and over. You're using the same 90-degree square, and you're maintaining that as you go. And what it does is it tapers the bar. And it's a very aggressive and very efficient method. The one thing I will warn you about is make sure you use a very well-radiused and well-dressed anvil, especially the anvil, and hammer. What can happen if you use edges that are too sharp is that you'll get cold shuts that will fold over and cause a weak spot or like a crack or something. So yeah, make sure. I do that on quite a large radius, usually with large material. I use like a 3/8 inch radius, or like a 1/4 inch really is probably what it is. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go to the anvil and actually do it. So this is where I'm at right now with the tongs. I wanted to show the shape before I go on, because it will change after this step pretty drastically. You'll notice I left the thickness of the boss right here in this sort of angle. You'll notice this is actually more than half the thickness of this piece here. It's not exactly half. You can see if it was half, it would be like smaller. You see what I'm saying? It's just a little bit thicker. That's my point. The reason you want to do that before you punch the hole is because the process of punching and drifting the hole will actually suck this material down and you'll end up with it thinner here. You want to prepare for that by leaving it thick. So that's something I picked up from Mark Ling, who basically I learned how to make tongs from. While the tong is heating up, I want to show you the punch I'll be using. So I made this thing earlier. This style, as far as I can tell, comes from Brian Brazil. It has a point on the end, which you don't see very often. And this does a couple things. It allows you to mark the material out cold, which makes it easier to find the location while it's hot. And it also penetrates the steel more efficiently because there's a point on it. So just a couple things there. You can see now both are punched and how they'll fit together. I need to make a drift because I don't know where my other one is. I'm going to show you how to do that real fast. I'm just going to use some 3/8 inch round stock, just mild steel. Kind of a quick and dirty drift there. You can see the taper is longer over here than over there. This is just so that it'll clear the hole and come out the other side. And this. So I have like a flat chisel here. You can see I've just put the chisel lines into the jaw. That center line helps when you want to hold material in line with the tongs. It's very useful. Next I was going to kind of mention the rule of thumb when it comes to the rivet, which is basically the last step in this whole process. So riveting together involves basically what people will say, like the rule of thumb, is to have the material for the rivet head be the diameter times 1.5. I also use, by the way, I use another kind of guideline sometimes, which is just to take this thickness here and multiply it by 5. 3/8 times 5 is 1.875. but I just rounded it up to 2 inches, and that's what I have here. So I'm gonna heat this up and show you how I rivet these. I actually forgot to mention something. Before I rivet this, I like to do a little cleanup sometimes if needed. When you're forging something, there's a natural bias that happens where, because of the arc of the hammer as it comes down, it will want to pull the material towards you. I guess I should stand over here. It'll want to pull the material towards you. You can use this bias to your advantage when you're trying to set a rivet. A lot of times the rivet will try to be lopsided, it'll try to go to one side. All you have to do is orient that away from you and strike towards you, and it will pull it back and correct it.